Recording, yes, it's recording. So, okay, fine. Last time, what we did, we looked at general ledger, we looked at some items, cash book batches, we looked at journal batches. Then we said the rest, some of the items will come back. So today we want to look at customers and customers /sales. So here, basically, that's where we process all the customer transactions. So you've got customer batches, then you've got what we term customer invoicing. So I'm going to talk about customer batches first. So your customer batches are your customer journals. Customer journals. You are using them to process customer transactions in an environment, and we are in an organization which doesn't use Sage Evolution to manage stocks. All right. It doesn't use Sage Evolution to issue out customer invoices. It's just using Sage Evolution for accounting, right? So if a customer comes through and buys our services or our products, the invoicing is done using another system. It could be a manual system whereby the invoice is actually written in the invoice book, in manual invoice book. It could be another accounting software, right? But which is not Sage Evolution. So two conditions which must be met. We're not using Sage Evolution to control inventory, and we are not issuing invoices, customer invoices from Sage Evolution. We are saying when you have customer transactions, which are sales and returns, you process them via the customer journal or customer batches. The customer payments are processed via the cash book. Don't forget that. The two things that you are only processing using the customer journal in that environment is the sale and if there is a return by that customer. All right. So what do you do now? You first of all create the customer badge by coming here and clicking on new badge. This process, we did it. So the badge description will be customer badge. You can leave it this way, or you can call it customer journal. It all depends, but the essence is we are going to be processing customer transactions. So the modules affected, you've got accounts receivables, which are the main. So here, if you don't want to see these other modules when you're selecting your customers, you can just remove the text. You can leave the text there, it doesn't matter. Options, clear batch after posting. This, we want it always. Then here you have to tick on always show GL contract account. We are processing customer transactions. We'll be seeing customer accounts. We also want to see the affected general ledger account, because here the double entry is for the customer is represented by accounts receivables. But we also want to see the other account which is affected, which in many instances will be sales account. So we want to see that. Then we also have to tick on always allow editing of GL. All right, this one you just leave it blank. You can leave this text blank. Then if you are processing for foreign customers, it means you have to select the currency there and do the journal, which means if you do that, the system automatically knows that this one, we are processing this journal in ZWG. We are processing this journal in a kwacha or whatever currency that we are using, which is the foreign currency, which is not our home currency. If we do not select any currency here, it means we are just processing in our home currency, which means in this instance, that is the USD, the United States dollar. Then the new line defaults, you can leave them as they are. Even the text defaults, you can leave them. Then once you are satisfied, you click on OK. So your customer badge, once created, you can use it as many times as you want. You don't necessarily need to create multiple customer badges. You can just use that one, capture your transactions. When you post, the badge remains there. You can reuse it next time, right? So let's look at our badge structure. So the same structure like what we saw when we were doing the general journal, the general ledger page. You remember, sort of, you've got your date there, which will be your system current date. By default, the module picked its AR for accounts receivable, because it knows by default that we are doing for customers. The other modules are there because we didn't remove those ticks, but we want to work with the AR. Then here we pick the customer code, right? Then here we pick the transaction, right? We pick the transaction. So we've got, okay, probably let me just outline. We have got, there are many, but mostly what we work with is invoice, a sale, right? Credit note, then probably opening balance. Right? But you can charge interest, you can give a discount, you can do all these other, depending with the transaction code that you select. So let's say this was a sale. Then obviously the contra account will be, because we do not have sub accounts. If we had sub accounts, we could pick a sub account. Then normally, let's assume that we're using a manual system to invoice. So this reference is coming from the manual. Oh, shut. Then we are debiting, right? So the system by default, it opens the debit column. You've got the credit column, you've got the debit column. If we are registered for value-added tax, it means you're charging VAT. So we select the tax type. Automatically, it will charge VAT on the 1.2. Then it gives you the amount. Automatically, it selects the sales rate. Then we are good to go. If we wanted to link this with a project, we were supposed to select a project there. If there were settlement terms, we could also select the settlement terms. So I'm saying you are doing this in an environment whereby you are not using Sage Evolution to control stock, your trading stocks. You are not using Sage Evolution to invoice customers. The accountant is simply getting an invoice book, be it end of day, end of week, from the sales department, and then inputting the sales and all the transactions which have to do with customers, which were done using the customer journal or customer page. Once satisfied, you either run your validation first if you want. If there are errors, the system will tell you. Once you're satisfied, you can post the badge. So by posting the badge, you are updating your legend. So basically, you have captured your result. Then it will prompt, do you want to allocate? In this case, you remember when we did, because initially we did a payment. If you remember when we were doing a cash, we processed the payment. Then I said, we can't allocate because there was no invoice to allocate to. But now we have a payment, we've got an invoice. So this side, we've got our payment. This side, we've got our invoice of 1.2. Not 1.2 necessarily, it's 1380. Here we've got our payment, I think it's 1.5. So basically what we simply do is we allocate, because we want to allocate this. Once we have allocated, then we know that it has been meshed. Right? There will be a balance on the customer account of 120. So basically, this is how you process your. Okay, hold on. Come in. Drimo. Anzi no approve. Anzi no tariswa ya approve. I approve, then it's okay. And so generate a text clearance. But anzi no kwanza generate. Anzi can I approve? Anzi ka approve. I need to vumira ku generate. Ndikasa approve. But Samaria stands that need to say what it. I don't have something. That's not what I'm doing. Very good. So don't booze. And I have the term no it takes credit. Didn't get what takes credit. Yeah. I did only capture account. Eh, one capture account. Some jam phones are no. Changing my paper guys. If it better representing to take credit. I think I know my Panama paper should do now. And for proposal, is very easy. So I got is okay. So I got I'll check tomorrow. Yes, fine. Don't go over. Here at Panama, it can approve. The consequence generator. Another one, matenga ichipera December.
Right.
Next year techizwa.
I think that's fine. That's exactly what
That's fine. Kungoona kuti anenge achitikira. So I think mapepa akauya ndinomatarisa. Ndochiona kuti titoita sei kuti are we able to claim back that.
tinotaura naye.
Takabata mapepa medu.
Takabata mapepa. Tinotaura naye takabata mapepa. Tongomira because I think we definitely go somewhere. Ndoba tinetsa wazikuti abanye zvekepara kuzochinja.
Yeah,
we have to make sure this whatever we do now, especially now because our planning should have two problems.
Yeah.
All the planning should be whatever not getting too much pressure and do the refuse to have pressure when to
Yeah,
so the phone chero tetsenze negotiator navo vakadii but still chibhadhara according to that chero vakatitora 20% it's fine nodizane zvinezvekuti chibhadhara kusvika zvaita right
okukunza ero team iro ratirambira
yetaxerence yejanuary tinoza tingoibhadha 20%. Yes.
Because mostly isusu ndokwatinongoda tax clearance
mostly to clear the situation. It's as a payment plan approve then it makes sense that will be fine. About when goes to the tax clearance it's better than
vakatongo approve
payment plan
inobva yatovhura iyo
saka ivo vakatoziva vakamaliza vakatowanda payment plan.
Saka I think
business right. But you get danger ndiyo imako sales here. Takaita sa okay with this vakati kuti atokosa kubekana nayo.
I mean formal business they say it's in a fix.
But you know what where we are going. Sakaita is advantage is about now big.
All right. Yes.
Why we can pay it formalized others. And informalize, especially in education. May is not very fast. You want to go between now and the next 4 or 5 months, which is not much. Because after those 5 months, you might be able to whatever we get, we can make things work.
Yeah, because you're in loan.
Because in my long term, what you can we don't want to, I don't think you take it up always.
Alright.
To manage, we need to top up.
Ndichatarisa zvangu chavakaita iko zvino handasina kumbochitarisa ndangochiignore handatombotaura naye ndaangotaura ona zvakamira
we'll deal with that. As long as the normalize get a proposal, I didn't pay me the day.
Indaiti vakaisusu takuchifa kungoita all.
Yes.
Then tochiona vakarambawo ndenda kungomunzwa kuti yange achiti
handipane payment plan. Plan has not moved to the that's why it's a payment plan. And I don't know
maybe just pay off what is let me see what I say. Hello, Sean. Hello.
Yes,
sorry,
yes, Ndiripo. It's okay.
So I was saying to him, I hope you can still follow. I'm going to edit this because I was recording.
Okay.
So here, that's the allocation. This allocation is very important. This allocation is very important because is the one which gives us an accurate age analysis, which I spoke about. You can see here, you can see down here. These are the aging that you have, current 30 days, 60 days, 90, 120, and so forth. then it will show you this. So this has to be done. So once we have done that, we just close this window. I'm saying the customer journal. This is very important, this statement which I'm making. The customer journal or the customer page only used in an environment where you are not issuing invoices from Evolution and you are not controlling stocks using Evolution. Right? In a situation whereby we are using Evolution to issue out invoices or to control stocks, I would say we use what I term, it's me who terms it that way, customer invoice. So I want to show you that customer invoice. All right. I hope today we've got time. I don't know. Because I wanted to cover customers and suppliers today. It's a bit heavy, but I'm sure you can follow. So under here,
Yes, I'll make up for that.
yes, we can do our customer invoicing. But mostly on Evolution, we don't use what is here. We use what is under order entry. So under order entry, you've got this automatic purchase orders, you've got purchase order, you've got sales order, then you've got sales order fulfillment. For customer transactions, which I term customer invoicing, you use what we term the sales order. Right? So you need to understand, you are using Evolution to control your stocks. You are using Evolution to invoice your customers. You need to know the selling process, where it begins from. The selling process begins from a quotation. Right? A customer comes through, makes an inquiry about a product, about a service, and they may require a physical quotation. Right? So you first of all do a quotation. So I'm going to take you through the sequence, starting from the inquiry, which results in you issuing out a quotation. So, okay, I'm going to close this. I'm saying, instead of doing the customer invoicing via customer /sales, we are doing the customer invoicing via transactions order entry sales order. All right. You could find this function. It's also the customer transactions can also be done via inventory. You can do invoice. You can see here, you've got invoice, you've got credit note. So normally we just say, okay, the systematic way of doing it is via transactions, then sales order. All right. So when you come here now under this, you then select your customer. Right. If it is a cash customer, you say cash customer. If it is a particular customer, you are selecting the customer. Then down here, you select your items. These are the items that we created. Okay. In our case, some of the items were raw materials. Some of the items were finished products. So let's say probably it was boom paste. So you could select that. Then you could select the warehouse that you're picking this for. If it is master, then you're selecting that. So you could find, according to this, available quantities is 0. We do not have stocks for this item. All right. So, okay, let me do it this way. Let me, instead of doing customer invoicing, I know I had introduced the customer page. But what I want to do is I want to start with suppliers. Why? Because you'd find for us to be able to do customer transactions, we should have received some stocks. Or probably, let me just receive some stocks. Then I'll explain in detail when we get to suppliers. Let me just receive some stocks here. I'll talk about this so that I have continuation. I'm trying to avoid, right. So let me just, so you can see this account is said to be on hold. In other words, the system is saying you can't process transactions because it's on hold. What it means now, I have to come back here, go to suppliers, click on my suppliers. All right. Then I just have to double click to open this supplier, remove the tick on hold, click OK. Then I'll come back here. All right, this transaction which I'm doing, just allow me to do it. We are going to do suppliers, and then I'll explain in detail what I'm doing here. But basically, in essence, I'm just receiving some stocks. I want to receive stocks for this boom paste. Right? Just want to receive into the master warehouse, and I want to receive about 100 or even 1,000, doesn't matter. All right, then to receive stock. I want to break it. You want to print it. So I've received. So allow me to come back now. So I was saying now under customer invoicing, whereby we are issuing out invoices and we are managing stocks using Sage Evolution. We do transactions, order entry, then we come to sales order. The first thing that we do, what happens in a sales process is the first thing normally is the quotation. So you select your customer, you come down here, you select the product which is being quoted. In this instance is the Boom Paste master warehouse. We've got 1,000 items. Probably this customer is inquired for 5 items. So we've got the price there. If you are charging VAT, we select our VAT. If you are issuing a discount, we put our discount there. Once we have done that, we then do a quotation. So up here, you've got buttons: close, new, open, place order, and quote. So if it is a quotation, like in this case, you then just click on quote. Like when you click on quote, the system will prompt you, do you want to print the sales order quotation document? In this case, we are going to say yes, because probably the customer wants a hard copy to take to their company. So we are saying yes, we are printing the quotation. So this is what the quotation will look like. Obviously, if it was for a company, you could find here, instead of Sage 200 Evolution Education, we're going to have the details of the organization up here. We designed the template and everything. But because this is for us, we are having this. So this will be our quotation, which we can be printed as a hard copy, issued to the customer. The accountant or the finance manager doesn't necessarily do this. It's done by the salespeople, but it affects the job that the accountant or the finance manager does. A quotation, it's an information document. It doesn't affect your ledger. It doesn't subtract stocks. It's a document for you to communicate officially with the customer who has come through to inquire about a particular product. You may just need to know how to do quotations. Even if you have to manage the system, you need to know the process it goes through. So that's what your quotation is done, how it is done. So the next thing will be to do a sales order. Now, let's say the same customer has come through and said, okay, fine, look, you gave me a quotation, I'm happy, I now want to place an order. You could follow the same process: transactions, order entry, sales order. Then you could, instead of selecting here, because we did a quotation before for this customer, so the quotation is already in the system and we want to link to that quotation. So we could just click on open. All right. We want to link to that quotation. So when we click on open, we are given this window. Now this window, you'd find it allows us to zoom for documents which have to do with customers and suppliers, depending on whom we are processing. In this case, we are processing customers. So by default, it selects customers. We're going to be disconnected anytime from now, which is still okay. So we say customers. Then we can, here on document type, we can, because this was a quotation, right? So we can just, okay, we can say sales order, then we, on this one, we say, oh, then we click on find. We can find exact. If we have got the quotation number, we can just find exact. Okay, in this case, because I just had one, so it loads up this quotation that we did. And you can either double click on it, or you can just say, okay. So once I do that, it loads up, then it activates the buttons which are up here. Now we have got place order and you've got process. Process does the invoice. Place order, if you have got a situation whereby you are using sales orders are used. If you go into Transact, the company Transact which sells motor spares, you go to the sales counter, like in their town branches, you go to the sales counter, you buy your shocks for your motor vehicle. The salesperson will do a sales order for you. So the salesperson does the sales order, then you are taken to the cashier where the invoice will be done. So that's where the sales order can be used. So in that case, what happens is after opening the quotation, like what I've done, an order is placed, right? Then you may be prompted, do you want to print the sales order picking slip document? If you want to just say, if you don't want to just say, so the order is created. This is a sales order. Again, it doesn't subtract stocks. It's just a sales order meant to control, because probably the organization doesn't want the salespeople to hold cash, to get cash from customers. They want the cashier to be the one processing the invoice and collecting cash from the customers. So in that case, the salespeople at the counter, they place the order, they write the order number, give to the customer. Now, when the customer goes to the cashier now, the same process is being done. Order entry, sales order. Then again, open. This is what the cashier is now doing. Open. Then again, it's sales order, then find. Right. Then you've got this sales order, which was done by the cashier. It's no longer a code, it's now a sales order. So you can either say okay, or you can just double click on it. So when you double click on it, it loads up. And you can see now at this stage, your place order and your quote are grayed out. Process is activated because you are now here to do an invoice. This area is grayed out. You can change it, right? Under quote, you could change it. Under place order, you could change, because still the customer was probably deciding how many quantities do I want. But under invoicing, after this process, the customer is confirmed, ready to pay. So you click on process. This now processes your, okay, now you can see there, it gave me an error. The total for this sales order is 0 or less. So I can't continue. Now, what is happening? If you look down here, there is a column, there is a confirmed column, which I want you to see. Ordered quantities. These are the ordered quantities here, quantity ordered, but we have to confirm. So in other words, what the system is saying, okay, the customer, when the customer was quoted, he said 5. When the sales order was done, the customer said 5. At the point of paying and generating invoice, is it still 5? If it is still 5, then we continue with 5. If it is another quantity, we put that quantity. Then once that has been done, we process. Do you want to print sales order picking slip? What is being called a sales order picking slip is in a real setup, you have the warehouse team. So you've got the cashier, you've got the warehouse team, you've got your salespeople. The salespeople that are doing the quotations and the sales orders. Your cashier is doing the invoicing and collecting cash. Your warehouse team is doing the picking. So the system will actually allow, you can set up printers, right? So when the cashier does the invoice, automatically a picking slip is also printed in the warehouse, so that the warehouse team knows that these things need to be picked, right? So once that has been done, you can print the picking slip. Probably let me just say yes, so that you see how it looks like. So the picking slip is not an invoice, it's just a document which has got the items which needs to be picked. So once it's required, assembled, right, signed by, then it's picked. Do you want to print the sales order delivery? If you want to print the sales order delivery, which will accompany, if you are delivering in this case, if the customer is there and is collecting, you may not necessarily need to print this order delivered. No? Right. Then do you want to print the invoice? This is now your invoice. The invoice, you always want to print it. You always have to print it. Other documents, they're optional, but this invoice has to be printed always. So you ordered quantity, you supplied quantity, and everything. Then you say, okay. So by so doing, this transaction has been posted to the ledger. By processing, the transaction has been posted to the ledger. So these are the documents, what we term in. So what is happening here? You are processing your sales, you are subtracting stocks. You need to know what is happening. You are also subtracting stocks. I've spoke about 3 documents here. I said quotation, sales order, invoice. I want to talk about another document. Now, a customer may come back and say, okay, look, I bought these items. such a date. I was here then, but we discovered some errors or some problems with some of the items, and we are returning them. So you have to do what we term a credit note. So you can come back to transactions, customers /sales, then you can do your credit note. You can find it through this. You can also find it through inventory. Whichever way, the credit note is just the same document. This is a document which handles returns by customers. So a customer has come through and you sold to this customer. They have retained, let's say, 2 boom items for whatever reason. Right. So we just process that. How many we retained? We are saying 2. We retain. Everything else remains as it is. Then this one by default, you just process. Do you want to print the credit note document? You'd want, right? Then you have credit note document. This is how you process customer transactions. What we are doing, it's affecting, right? Allocation comes into play. Allocation comes into play. Because what a credit note does, it reduces the value or the amount the customer owes. And by default, allocation kicks into play. So you can do your allocations just like this. The window is the same. Then you can just allocate. Then you'll find this has been reduced. Right. Because we sold to the customer, mind you, and we did a credit note. So it will apply both the invoice and the credit note. Then we still owe this customer that much. So yes, we want to save that. So you see, what we were doing, if you were to come to reports and probably just do general, then you do your trial balance, you would find your sales account now has got a particular figure. I'll give you an example which I already know. The sales account has got a particular figure because we sold to a customer. So you've got revenue there sitting with 1,201. Right? You've got cost of sales. This cost of sales is coming when we were doing the invoice. When we did the invoicing, what it does now, it does your sales. It does your cost of sales automatically. So your gross profit is calculated automatically by the system because you are using the system to manage stocks. You remember we created these items. I haven't talked about receiving them. I'm going to talk about that just now. Right? So we created the items and here I received. I didn't show you how to receive. I'm going to show you. Then we did the selling process. So automatically the system calculates the gross profit. It does the cost of sales. Automatically that is done. You no longer need to compute or to enter any journal. It's done automatically by the system. Then it will do what it does. This is your trial balance. If you were to view the income statement, so you could just say, okay, let me just close this. Then you could just, so whenever you are doing a transaction, you need to know what is affected and what is the end result. So if you were to view your income statement, quickly, let me just do that. Right, we would find we now have got some sales which have come through and we should have some profit or loss. So in this case, we've got a loss so far. We did these sales, we had this cost of sales with this GDP,